Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fed Up with me, Fed Up Guys. Joining me today are the metallic hardcore band No Divinity. Seriously, for a fan of any kind of hardcore and extreme metal, this is definitely one you want to check out. Highly recommended. Thanks for joining me, y'all. And how is it going today on your side?
Things are well. It's going.
Good, good.
Great.
Yeah,
Hey,
We're
hey,
chilling. We're chilling.
still
yeah,
Saturday over here for sure.
yeah, definitely, man. The weekend vibes for sure. So, one thing I noticed straight from the opener is you've got that good kind of like end of the world kind of intro to introduce the EP. Um, I thought that fit the title as well. Generation of Pain. Really hooks in the listeners. So that opening, Baptized in Fear. When you guys put that together, did you all look for a particular intro you had in mind that wanted to do that, wanted to draw people in?
Yeah, I think so. We were kind of messing with that intro for a little bit, and when it came time to kind of put it to paper, kind of like actually get it going, I felt like dramatizing it is a good way to put it, making it sound bigger.
Yeah,
Like we worked on it for quite a while, so I'm glad it comes across that way. It feels fitting to introduce the EP with that one. So yeah. I mean, we worked on it for a little bit, but the idea was always to make it bigger and more serious or intense. Maybe is a better word. At least
yeah,
from my perspective.
definitely for sure. I must apologise. I forgot to ask you all to introduce yourselves to the
Oh,
audience who you are from the band. So that was such an awesome start from me. Apologies there.
oh,
No problem at all.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, could you just tell us, who you are from the band and
yeah. I'm Tyler. I play drums.
I'm Brady. I play guitar.
I'm Yusuf and I play bass.
hey, hey. Yeah, thanks for that, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, that intro it definitely does have that feel, and it reminded me as well of All Out War. They've done that with a lot of their albums as well. So I
Alright.
thought, man, this is right up my alley for sure. Um, and what I like is Baptized in Fear. It definitely, as I say, it has that heaviness, that atmosphere with it. It's got the ferocity and intensity. So, could you tell us a little bit how you put the music together, and then also what the themes in the lyrics are?
Yeah, so I guess we can start with the first part, how we
Yeah,
kind of put this stuff together. I guess it always starts with just a few riffs. We are
yeah,
definitely a band that likes to link up. We've tried the kind of like computer desktop sending stuff, trying to do like recordings from our offices or own
yeah.
studios or whatever. And it always seems to me that the magic comes together once we're in the room
Mm,
and we really start just seeing what kind of comes together. With this one, I think it was pretty much the same approach we've always had. And we didn't really like go into it, I guess, with a like direct theme, but we definitely wanted a more cohesive sound, I think,
yeah.
compared to our first EP. And I think that was more important. So I think that's kind of how the foundation got going. I don't know if Brady wanted to add to that. Being guitars, I think there's a little bit more to it too from that angle. But
Yeah. I think our other guitar player, Leighton, he kind of came up with that first intro riff that we had, and
Yeah,
it that was kind of we definitely felt like the kind of chaos vibe that was coming from that, and
mm,
we really wanted to just kind of go into those really dirty, mean sounding chords and those really almost taking as much harmony as we can, and not like throwing the harmonies out, but making those harmonies sound mean and evil sounding or something like that.
that was
And
definitely
so
a vibe. Yeah. Making it
yeah,
meaner. We wanted to just make
yeah,
it meaner. I think that's always the goal.
yeah,
and with like the lead part that I wrote, there was definitely like some dissonant notes that I kind of wanted to accentuate in that little like ditty lead at the beginning. And then I also think a lot of this, even like this first intro song that we did, we really wanted to give the listener a really short expectation of what they're going to get in the next couple songs, and
yeah,
probably what they're going to get for the next, sound from the band for a while. And we wanted to highlight everybody's individual talents too. That's why there's like that nasty ass bass part. That's
yeah.
yeah.
That
So
opens up
everybody,
big time in there. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's
So-
a great way of putting it. Yeah, we definitely want to give everyone their moment too. We did that a lot in the CP.
Yeah, that shines through, and I think on any hardcore record as well, if it has that intro as it being seen, it grabs you. And the only way I can describe it, say to people, it's like someone's kind of setting off a chemical reaction in your brain, because you hear that intro and it's building up, and you know something's going to happen. And I'm sure you guys have this. Obviously, playing the music, you will do. But when you hear it start, it's like. Thankfully, I think I get away with the odd curse word as to on YouTube, but so you literally shit yourself when you hear the music. It's like, man, this is good. And then you hear the riffs break down, and then you hear the pace start, or say the breakdown parts, mosh parts, and it immediately grabs you. And then, like as you said, Brady, it's then, man, this is what's going to come with the rest of the album. And it literally, if that grabs my ears, I'm on a hyper the album. What's happening? One of my friends, or whatever, man, you've got to hear this, and it's that same feeling you have when you play live or when you're in the pit as well. You know, just before a circle pit starts or a wall of death, for example, and you have it all there and you're like, man, that goes off. So that definitely hit the fields for me, hit the ground running. And I think, as you were saying about getting together in the room, and that's where the best magic comes from organically. You just see what you're going to jam and what comes across natural. And I think to go with anything, I know you're obviously into metal as well. You know, I won't forget that side. But with hardcore as well, if that natural rawness and intensity comes across in the music, I feel it makes it a little more authentic. You feel that passion. Definitely as a listener, it holds on to you, like, yeah. And then with the, you know, the themes, which we'll get into, that just really brings it more to life. You're saying, yeah, this is raw, gritty. This is from the street. I can feel the anger about injustice, for example. Everything then hits you. I guess, yeah, I'm doing kind of like a bullet point list on probably every hardcore going, people would say, but definitely the feels to go with it. So with that said, you know, you were saying, Tyler, that you tried, you know, the sending the songs across desktops, all of that in the past. Now, is this the way forward? You're going to keep it, get together, see what you come up with, and then add the lyrical side on top of that once you've got the music?
Yeah, definitely going to just kind of keep going in that direction. I think this time around, though, we're going to try and see what everyone can do on the instruments a little bit. I think Yusuf actually bought a guitar recently, and that'll help with just writing riffs. And I'm super interested in learning more, or just doing more with the guitar anyway. But just, I think, a more probably a more focused direction again. But I think we really want to take some time on this one and just, I don't know, not experiment per se, but put out something that we're all like very involved into. Like we all had a pretty big hand in it. Than just our normal roles, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So, but no, linking up's the way to do it. I think for us, it seems to be the most productive.
So when I'm playing guitar and I'm trying to write a riff, I'm trying to make it sound, and I'm just playing by myself, right? I'm trying to make a guitar riff sound as interesting and as fun, and like the more and more I play it, the less and less I like it because it gets repetitive, right? So I got to keep these riffs in my head. It's always interesting. But when I bring that to the band, a lot of the times they'll kind of be like, all right, we got to maybe slow this down, chop this up, like maybe take away some parts. And I think that's one of the best things about just getting together is in being in a band. And we've all been really good friends for a long time, so we have no problem being honest with each other about, you know, if something good or bad. But it's so helpful to have somebody or just other people just be like, no, let's just take away some stuff, because I'm a big believer in the fact that like art is like a piece of artist is you know, maybe not, it's never completed or it's just abandoned, but like when it's ready, when there's nothing left to take away. And I really just enjoy coming to practice. I have a riff that's it's super fast here, super choppy here, and they'll be like, no, we can just slow it down and make it sound harder and heavier, or we can take away parts. So like that's probably for me the best reason that why we get together, and that's where like the magic comes in. So
that's a really good point as well, because people can often make a mistake, and I've been guilty of this, right? It must always be constantly fast. No, I can't have any slow parts. I've been slowing people forget it still can be heavy when it's slow. I mean, if you look at like Death Doom bands and sludge as well, insanely, stupidly raw and heavy in a very different way.
Yep.
And you guys do a nice combination, I feel, of the speed, breakdown parts, mosh parts, for example. It kind of really flows nicely. So you mentioned something there, Brady, that, you know, when you're playing some of these riffs over and over, sometimes you can get bored with it. And I guess I can put this question to all of you. So how do you then get past those difficult moments where you're thinking, man, I'm a bit bored of this? Is it literally just moving on to some new music?
I mean, we're all, or I guess I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I make music in a few different genres, and, you know, maybe I'll switch what I'm working on for a little bit. But if I've got it enough to where like I'm like getting maybe annoyed with it, I'll just take a video of it and send it to our Discord or something like that, and then we'll just kind of, then I can at least come back to it, you know. But you know, sometimes those riffs stay in your head for years. And you just hold on to them until you get them right, you know. So there's still ones that I've got that I just can't figure out yet, but like I can remember the general idea of them. So I guess that's what I would do. I just kind of, you know, put it back and keep an eye on it. Play it again when I'm not annoyed with it.
And what about you guys? What about you, Yusuf? Is it the same?
I think sometimes when it comes to like, oh, maybe this is getting boring, the biggest cure for that is sometimes getting together with everyone and playing it live. Because sometimes, maybe it's a riff that gets a little repetitive on bass or guitar, but when you add in the drums and vocals to it, sometimes that just changes everything. It's like, oh, I could play this 50 times in a row because the drums are doing this, and it sounds cooler that way.
Yeah,
I'll 100% back that up too.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's interesting being the drummer. I feel like what I've noticed with this project is that a lot of the direction relies on what I'm doing: fast, slow, complicated, simple, two-step, you know, whatever. And it's really interesting having the guys come to practice at the point where they're like, we just don't really know what to do with this, or how do we change this? And a lot of times, like, I agree with them, just removing elements, dumb it down. Let's start with like a base level, and then maybe re-add in some of these parts on top of it and see where we're at. You know, what's the one thing we like about this riff? Okay, let's see what we can do for a little bit here. Let's jam it out for a little bit, slow it down, speed it up, add in that. Oh, maybe a vocal thing here. Vocal thing with Christian would be sick. But I think generally that's kind of how we approach it when we get stuck on things. I don't, like I said, I don't play a ton of guitar, so I don't really feel like I have a way to get hung up on stuff. But in the actual like room when we're writing and practicing and stuff, definitely we all hit that point where like, shit, like what are we gonna do now? Like we're just, it's kind of like a mental roadblock. And a lot of times I feel like at that point, you know, we have a beer, we run some of our other songs we like or something, work on a different new one, and by the time that practice is over, we figured out what we want to do. Sometimes like just stepping away even for a moment and just putting it down is all it takes. Revisiting next week, and we're like, oh, now we've got it. Like, this is working. We like this. That's actually kind of the Baptized in Fear kind of went that way for a while, because it's not anything I would say is like dramatically crazy on guitars right away. It's like guitars, but the way we made it atmospherically built up, and the way it's very slow and kind of brooding, kind of, it's like something's coming. It just, that took a lot of, I think, working it out in a live setting. Like, how could this play out live? Like, what if we did it this way, and what if we did that way? I don't know if that song would have really came the way that it, you know, together the way that it did if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, so it's nice how it's naturally come together. And you mentioned like playing it live as well. It to me, it would be the perfect lights throughout that intro song. It's coming and everybody's waiting, and the lights come out, and then thunder into it. It's perfectly built for that. Definitely comes across. And yeah, I've always been fascinated by how bands have told me how to get past those mental blockages. You know, there's always a different answer. And I thought, you know, as much as we all love this music, there's going to be times when, you're going to be, man, this isn't quite coming together, or I'm not feeling this. I'm with you putting the emphasis on jamming together and doing it. It's much better than say someone sat there behind the desk, no, I'm not feeling this. So 2 days later, here's this riff. Yeah, let's get it. So I'm like, man, you know, that's that's not going to get anything resolved too much. So one thing I noticed as well, which we'll get into doing a deep dive on each song, but when I was reading about you, and it said like a lot of the lyrics are filled with messages speaking on I'm getting tongue tied. Suppression, man. Need more coffee.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Suppression from those in power. Damn. Yeah. The decayed society, how that I think can have that ruination of the mind. So I'd imagine that's how it can make people feel bleak, like all hope is gone. Look, everything just seems to be getting worse. There's no way out of this. I mean, fits in well with anything post APOC, Holy Terror themed hardcore as well. So I just wondered if you all could tell us a little bit about some of the themes, lyrics, what inspired them. Literally, is it sadly the state of the world that was a big impact on the creative process?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we wrote this mid and post COVID, I guess. And I think we just all had a lot of time to think about a lot of things, and I don't want to speak for the other guys in the band, but I feel like what angers me most in my life is the way the world is going in any direction, and the way that like I kind of like, just as a person who's not in a position of power, like I truly am helpless to change the world for everyone else. I can only do what I can to make my world better, right? And so I think that just with that in mindset, what I really thought about going into it is like this EP, making this music, and when we play these shows, like that's my outlet for letting this anger and frustration out. Like, that's what I do to get my frustration about this stuff out. So that being said, I don't really do anything with the lyrics, but I always definitely I vibe with them, or that I try to write riffs that are going to fit with them. So yeah, that's what I would have to say about it, I guess.
Yeah, the lyrics are definitely Christian, our vocalist, who's not here. It's pretty much him and Tyler are really the ones that kind of sit down and put the lyrics together and lay them out with the songs and stuff. But yeah, I would definitely agree with what Brady said.
Yeah, I want to let those guys go first. Everyone, I feel like, is pretty much on the same page as far as the lyrical content or the context of the content is concerned. We're all pretty like-minded individuals, but we're not blind to a lot of the atrocities that go around all over the world. Our government is in shambles. We hate it here too. Everyone hates it everywhere, it sounds like. But there's pockets of joy. There's moments, and as doom and gloom these lyrics and the content are, I think it is kind of that like reminder that like it can get better. There are like, we're playing music about it. Like, we're trying to spread a message. We're trying to give people a reason to, like, they can relate to this stuff too. Everyone in some way. I don't start usually writing the lyrics, but I'm pretty into helping get the thematics across, I guess. How to make it sound, a little like the way it's laid out, or maybe the way that message is being carried in the song. I'll be like, Christian, maybe focus in a little bit more on that message you're kind of sending, like maybe just and see what that comes up. And then he'll have a whole new lyrical part written for the song, basically, that he didn't have before. And he just, not that he couldn't do it, it's more that he just needed like a second opinion. And I always can kind of come in and tweak it just a smidge for him, or a little thematic input. And a lot of these messages that and contextual stuff that we have going on, some metaphorical, some realistic, and a lot of it is just, I think, how things have gone, and I just help him accentuate it as much as I can. He's very, I would say he's pretty open about his feelings on the state of things too. I think he likes to be a bit not so on the nose. There are some hardcore bands that are, and we love that shit too. But stuff that's like very like personal in their like in their actual life right now, and this is a little bit more broad. We wanted to maybe appeal to, or if you know, a bigger audience in that sort of sense. Like we feel like those people a lot more could relate maybe to just how things have been going. And it kind of seemingly is, you know, the Generation of Pain was, I think, Minor Christian's idea too. And I think that just really summed up, you know, like where we're at in our age now, you know, late 20s, early 30s. And where a lot of our contemporaries are, the bands we love, the bands you haven't spoken of already. Some of those are really, you know, like legacy bands almost at a point now. I think they would probably, I mean, a lot of the stuff they were singing about then isn't too far from now. So, you know, the message is still there. We're still everyone's still reminding that, hey, this has to get better. You know, we have to be better.
Yeah, totally. I totally feel what you're saying. It's those universal concepts that you know, everybody can relate to from wherever they're from. I'd love to sit here and say, yes, there wouldn't be another band coming along in years to come who probably wouldn't have the say. And sadly, I feel, well, I remain open-minded. Hopefully it will, but it's the problem is, you were saying, it's those who get in power then who abuse it. And then
theme in this record.
And also can't put their own egos aside all the time to work together for the greater good, instead of, no, I'm going to follow my own agenda because either this business controls it. Well, there's so many different. We could do a whole other show just literally on that. And I think that's, to me as well, hardcore and then extreme metal as well is healthy in this sense, especially from COVID. It's allowed us all to, I mean, it generally helps us get those negative feelings out, get that energy away. And I've heard it so many times when people have said, you know, either hardcore saved my life, underground hip hop has, or extreme metal, etc. And I think, well, there is something to be said in that. For me, hardcore and underground hip hop have always helped me through those tough periods, because I think there's just something there, because there's such a rawness and realness to it. And then I can really identify with that. I'm not bashing any other music or saying nobody's ever done that in whatever genre, but that's just how, it's just that personal relationship I've always had with it. And you were saying, I forgot to follow up, you were saying sometimes, you know, when you're making the music, you can go back to just adding a simple part, because, and I thought that was a really good point that you mentioned, because some bands can overcomplicate it, can go too technical, instead of, no, actually we'll just keep this more simple, this one works for this area. It's the same in fighting systems. Most people can forget basics and will go over totally technical, and someone can just come in with a cross, jab, that's it, bump, something as you know, basics and simple, the simpleness and to be forgotten. So moving on to Bled Dry, I just want, again, if we could look at the music, you know, how you got the riffs, the drums, how everything came together, and then we can look at some of the themes behind the lyrics as well.
Sure.
Yeah. So that riff, just that intro riff, was one of the ones that I kind of sat on for a while. And we had been playing that one since like our first show, but we had to take a lot of time to just really perfect it, and even what we were playing then is not really even close to what the song is now. And so I just brought that riff to practice one day, and then kind of just took off, and the structure of that song has been messed around with quite a bit. But I think we ended up with the best product for that one that we could have in the end. So
yeah, it's definitely mostly the ending that got tweaked. I mean, I think there was probably 3 or 4 different endings that we played live on that one. Like, dude, we had, I don't even remember the original at this point, because like Brady said, we've been playing that one live since before our first EP even came out. So that kind of, I don't really even remember how the writing of that one came together, but we would, you know, play it live a certain way for a while. We'd be like, you know, not really vibing with this. Let's try something else. And we're like, well, it's not recorded, not released. We can mess around with it as much as we want live. And yeah, I think that probably happened at least 3 times before we settled on the one we're on now, which was actually as we talked about before, almost like a simplified down version of one of the endings. Before.
Yeah.
We said, you know what,
Yep.
this is a little too busy, but we really like this element of it.
Yeah.
Let's work with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one was one we've been working on for quite a while. And I think an advantage being a smaller or more local band is we need stuff to fill the set with, and we have songs that may still see the light of day. We have some that may not, and we kind of said, one of the best ways to see if the song is even on the right trajectory is to see it live, to even play it live. Like we had like I said, it was mostly the ending, because I feel like the rest of the song was pretty. I mean, we did tweak things for like the final version, but that was kind of going into this EP. It's like, well, how do we take this song that we've been playing, like it's actually like cement it. Let's like lay this down finally. And a lot of it was the ending, and then some of the internal parts, the buildups. I think the breakdown in the middle changed a little bit. We really focused too on the CP, and this song is definitely one of them. Same with Baptized as well. Transitions, trying to make the songs flow a little differently, flow maybe more consistently instead of like choppiness or not saying that's how everything comes together, but always. But sometimes when we can really focus on a part and transition into another part without it seemingly two separate songs, or something isn't quite clicking, this was where we really focused a lot of attention. And I think the ending kind of shows, because Leighton actually comes in with a riff that he wrote and kind of like broke that ending up, if I recall. And you're like, we have to use that riff for something. Like, it's so good. And that whole ending, it's just like Headbangers Ball. It's like just the riff kicks in, and it could have been, I think the original version was a little bit more chaotic.
It
a lot more. I think it was busier is maybe a better word for it.
Like the splinter
Let's
ending.
just bring it down a little bit. Let's just bring it down. Let's just like maybe drag our knuckles a little bit. It can just be like a heavy part. It doesn't have to be totally revolutionary or explosive.
And that goes back to like what I was saying earlier, is that like when you bring these riffs and they're super complicated or whatever, it's so good to bring it to the band and just like slow it down. And I also want to just point out, like, just because something is like musically complicated, or like it's got a great guitar solo or whatever, like that doesn't mean people are going to enjoy watching it. Like I actually went and saw Megadeth last night, and it was boring as hell, because everyone was just standing around watching Dave Mustaine play a guitar solo, and like, yeah, that's cool, but like, does anybody want to mosh to that anymore? And I'm again, and I'm not knocking that at all. I mean, it's great. It's awesome. That's awesome that I listen to them all the time, but it's just not something that is great to feel live. Just because it's musically complicated, it's not like I don't feel an intensity to that. And
things have changed, right? And that, like definitely, like the live element of shows, even with hardcore, has been quite explosive over the last like 5 years. It has been crazy mode, and I love it.
And we want to make people mosh.
Just a different vibe nowadays, I feel like, even for not our genre, but it's got to be something more than what it's always been, kind of.
I think coming post-COVID, when a lot of bands couldn't get out there and play, I think that's become even more important for people, because it's like they've really missed that opportunity to let off steam, to enjoy it, that interaction, that atmosphere. I know not everybody moshes around, but there's still the dude or the dude at the side will still be, there's still a way. I mean, hardcore, man, the last definitely last 15 years, and then 5 years as well, especially, has been blowing up. So many fantastic bands, Expire, Enabler, the Flex from over here, fantastic band. And then I've talked about this band quite a lot. They're not quite, well, more of an oi punk band, but Crown Court, kind of I don't know if you remember Pure Disgust from a few years back. Sadly, they're no longer active. I think they're from Washington, possibly. I forget the label.
Name's familiar for sure.
Oh, they were fantastic, man. Crown Court, kind of a bit in that vibe. They're just two with the States. And I think, because like I've been saying, people thinking, oh God, you're showing your musical leanings here with talking about hardcore and punk all the time. It comes off. I do like other music as well, as anyone who watches the show can see. But I think yeah, it's become more important, as we said, for that atmosphere. And I definitely relate to what you're saying, Brady, because I've found that with bands like Mastodon, technical death metal as well. Musically, really good musicians. But to be honest, man, it can get boring to watch. Okay, live, but it's like, 10 minutes later, say, on the same solo, oh, look, I can do this. I'm like, God, man, this is like doing an exam in college.
Exactly.
It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And I mean, okay, if depending on the music, I guess that I'm going to see, if I'm going to see something more, say melodic, more chill, whatever, then that's what I'm going there for. If I'm going to something, any kind of hardcore punk or metal, I want some mosh parts. I don't have to go the whole set, even if they're not that does that. But every now and again, just to break it up, just so I'm literally not falling asleep. I had that.
Exactly.
I've only seen Megadeth once, and I had the same experience as you. Musically, really, really good, very good musicians, not taken away from them. But it got a bit boring, and I'm probably going to upset some people here. But sometimes even like, come on, clap your hands now.
Yeah.
This isn't doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just that expectation, right? Like we love, who doesn't love Megadeth? And then you go and you're like, that, I don't know. I haven't seen them, but there's plenty of, it's like setting expectations almost. And with like just this genre specifically, I feel like you don't really ever have to worry about the, I mean, just like how, I mean, the bands themselves even like go so hard. And that's just a different era, like Megadeth, like they probably aren't going very hard on stage anymore. I remember one of the first times I saw Slipknot was also kind of disappointing because it's just it's not even the same guys anymore. Some of them, it was right after Paul had died, and the stage performance was definitely like not, the 5-10 years ago. Was it bad? Are they awful? No, I loved every minute of it, but there's definitely a different crowd, for everything. It was just funny hearing that you went to Megadeth thinking it was going to like blow you away. And you're like, well, that was, I mean, that was Megadeth. Yeah. Like
Biohazard opened and that was fucking sick.
Oh, man, I've never seen them. Never seen them.
I hadn't either. It was awesome.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's so many. It's funny, man. If people say, "Oh, who would you like to see?" and I'm like, the list just keeps expanding. There's so many, as you said, of the legacy bands that I'd like to see. New bands. There's always a band that somebody knows you don't. It is absolutely endless. I mean, that could lead into. I mean, this has come up in a lot of shows where we've kind of got an oversaturation in a way now, where there's so many, so it's now standing out. But the positive is there's always something there to discover, and I think people are wanting that interaction. I've only seen this band once, and I think was it Tool, and the guy in the band, he literally had his back turned to all of the fans throughout the set. And when I was talking to some people who were like big Tool fans, they said, "Oh, well, the dude does that." So he's saying, no one is bigger than the band. And I'm like, well, you think about it. If people have saved up their money, say, to go to that show, and they might only be able to get to 1 or 2 shows a year, especially bigger ones. And you go in there and the dude's like mainly got his back towards you, and he's not, even not much interaction, say. I'm like, I kind of wouldn't really be cool with that. I'm like, come on, I want to literally see you them 1 or 2 times. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll turn attention back onto you guys, because I've got a bit sidetracked in a rant. But it's no problem. Go off topic all the time. I mean, because of the title, Fed Up. I'm always fed up, man. So moving on to sorry, we didn't get into the lyrics, either the theme. So what inspired the writing for Bled Dry and the lyrical themes in it?
I should, while you guys go, I'm just we have the lyrics aside here.
Yeah.
Like I said, Christian kind of takes the reign on a lot of these, but if I pull them up, I can help dissect them a little bit with you.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
No problem.
He like does this thing where I don't really know all of our lyrics until we get to recording, and then he always does like one part of the EP that just makes me like, just the way he says something, or the way he emphasizes something, is just my favorite performance of it. And the way he says like "afraid to cross," it's in this song, it's just gets me every time. So
afraid to cross. Yeah, This one, definitely a little bit more religious focused, which has been a pretty, I mean, even the name No Divinity. I don't mean to put Chama on blast here, Yusuf, but coming from a more religious focused background or interest at a different time in life to this now, it all feels like it's all relevant to us. And this song specifically is mostly just kind of what's it like to believe in something that we can't, like, there's no scientific fact on anything. And I've always been a pretty big believer in the in world religions in general. I took some courses on that stuff, but organized religion that we know conceptually now in the United States, Christianity, even Catholicism, has run absolutely amok with power and greed. And this whole thing is about the people that just blindly follow these people in power. A lot of the songs about not so much police brutality, but the people that defend that kind of stuff. It's a lot more about looking at you and me and like, why can't we find an agreement on this? And why can't we be more civil and humble towards one another? And we find a lot of times religious people don't, they say one thing and do the exact opposite, you know? And this is kind of one of those things where it's like, it's just an illusion. It's just a front, everything you do. And Blood Dry is, just kind of a reference to being like slowly let out over and over and over again over these same issues that no one seems to really address.
It's frustrating because it's kind of like a ended cycle. I had a band on yesterday, a Christian melodic black and death band, and he was a really, really cool guy. Very respectful, very, very open-minded as well. Fantastic dude. The sad thing is, you get those, as we were saying, who use whatever it is to getting that power, whether it be faith or anything else, often to go along with agenda, looking back in history for land, power, and so on. And then you get, as we said, the hypocrites or the fanatics that then will get that entire scene, that entire movement, such a bad reputation. It's even the same in music, the elitist death metalers and the elitist and hardcore. Right? Nothing else is real. I can't like this. I'm not going to sit here and say I was never like that. I was when I was first getting extreme music, and thankfully got out of that mindset. What makes it even more challenging, Talia, right, is when those people, you can't have that kind of open dialogue or conversation. I'm not saying everyone is like that, because they're not.
No, they're certainly not.
Yeah. But when you come across, I'll say, a fanatic in anything, and can't we find a common middle ground to recognize the injustice here, how that's wrong, we need a change in this area, need some reform, or look at, hey, this is maybe not so cool. And then that just, it's almost like, kind of see this as just trapping us in this cycle. I mean, I'm hoping with this show, Fed Up, it's very small, and I made it. I've made this point on every show. Probably will continue doing so. Look, I thought, regardless of my own tastes in music and opinions on whatever, I want to make this open for everyone and everything. Even music I don't like, it doesn't matter. I will still talk to people, and they can come on, whatever they're fed up about. Vent it out, talk about what they do in music, but do it in a nice, chill, laid back, where you can have a giggle as well and have that good dialogue, and then be respectful towards each other, which I feel is, now I'm going on a rant here, but I feel that's, like you were saying, Tyler, not just, it's bled into politics as well. Is people just shouting at each other, going absolutely crazy, wanting to commit acts of violence, whatever, just because they have a different particular leaning. I'm like, this is absolutely insane. How the hell did we get to this?
It's gotten pretty violent, like volatile over here. Like, it's ruining families. It ruins friendships. I mean, thankfully, I think we don't have a ton of to relate to it in the sense of like ruining our lives, but we see it ruin a lot of others. We see a lot of the discourse. I mean, it's just really, I don't mean to interrupt you. It's just, it is.
No, feel free.
Seemingly just doesn't get any better. People are getting less and less patient with one another and less empathetic, and it sucks, honestly.
It really doesn't. Go on,
a lot of what.
Oh, sorry, Brady.
No, go good. A lot of also like what drove the anger in this song too is people who, like these like pastors, and who build themselves up on a religion, and then they spout their political beliefs on it, and like you're messing with people's souls at that point. Like these people fully believe that, like, their questions of where did we come from, why are we here, and where do we go when we die, like those are the three answers that all religions try to serve. And these people who take advantage of those people who are simply trying to find peace with those questions, no matter what religion you find it in, and the people who take advantage of that and build their own riches
Empire.
and empire. Like honestly, like people like Joel Osteen.
That was just gonna say him, dude.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine a bigger, like an actual bigger scumbag than that guy, because like you take so much money, you live so extravagantly, and like you preach the word of a peasant, of a man who was a peasant and had nothing. It like that shit just pisses me off because it's so disgusting. And so that's where a lot of like my anger and a lot of the thematics of Blood Dry came for me.
It's the hypocrisy, isn't it? It's like dual standards when it's not supposed to be like that. I remember my nana once told me she was coming back on a train from somewhere, and she got talking to this priest, and and they're saying, where do you live, and all of the usual stuff. And he just lived in a regular house, and he said to her, I don't want to do what a lot of the other priests are doing, having a huge mansion, huge house, all fine. It's not supposed to be about that. And I thought, yeah, exactly, because it's like that hypocrisy. I'm not going to say, look, if you've got the chance to live more comfortable and take care of your family and friends around you, of course, but also don't forget to put that kindness back out in there as well. Again, these are themes that even can transcend across into music and everything. But often when, and we've seen it since the times began, someone will take that faith and then use that as a cover for their own really political agenda and land grabbing, etc. When really it's nothing to do with that faith at all. It's just right, yeah, I'm going to use this. It's kind of like a smoke screen for what's hidden behind it. And I, for me personally, I try and have a kind of live in it's finding that balance. Like we're saying, universal concepts with getting the music out there to people is, look, just treat people how you would want to be treated. But it's sad that, I mean, like COVID, I thought at this first start, people were going to realize and maybe be a bit kinder and nicer to each other. And at first it's awesome. And then as COVID just progressed, I'm like, man, it's actually brought out the kind of selfishness. My experience the worst. And I just thought, dude, I thought you wouldn't think this had happened. And it's madness. I've probably just depressed everybody now, but
no, I mean, that's a lot of what the record kind of is. Not so much COVID, but just the way people treat one another and get away with hypocrisy. And I feel like those are things that we maybe couldn't speak to you directly about because we don't know your life, but I bet you can relate to it somehow. I bet you can understand where we might feel a little disgruntled about it as well, or angry, or whatever you're feeling.
Definitely. I mean, that was one thing that I noticed, because there was areas that I could relate to in there, as I was saying earlier, hardcore and underground hip hop have especially helped me through some tough periods. And just either things I've experienced myself and then seen with friends, or as you said, you just literally see what's happening around you. And I'm like, this is just absolute madness. And there seems to be, it almost feels like we're losing that kind of middle ground with so many areas where people can't find a kind of like a compromise to work things out. It's like getting fanaticism all around, and it's pretty worrying. One in the politics, but then with kind of what's happening in play, in Ukraine, for example, I'm like, this is not good. It's like going down a slippery slope here, and that's to put it very, very mildly.
Those empowered, just they insist on finding any way they can to divide us on every issue, so that we're just, the middle class is distracted with fighting each other, that they don't pay attention to the upper class and what the real corruptions are going on. And it's sad that we all fall into that, I mean, that division that doesn't, if people would resist the temptation to be divided from those leaders, you know, if they just stop buying into all this bullshit from, you know, every political party just they make enemies out of the other party so much that it's so impossible to unite at all, you know.
Yeah.
Unity almost seems so far out of the question than violence, you know.
Yeah.
It's sad. It really is. It doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. This is, though, I think one of the more. Look, I'm not going to say hardcore doesn't have its problems, but I feel it's one of the more positive qualities about it because, as I was saying earlier, and the things continued. There's things there that people can relate to. It's got that rawness to it, that realness from life experiences, things that happen around them as well. And there's something that seems to just really speak to people, really hooks you in and just thinks, yeah. And then there's the social commentary as well on polytricks, as I call it, to use a hip hop analogy, which yeah, and it's pretty concerning, that's for sure. So moving on to the next track, otherwise I was just gonna go on a more depressing rant. I will, ask you obviously about the history of the band and some of the, influences and shows.
Oh, no worries, man. Yeah,
I haven't forgotten, guys. Don't worry.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. But Eternal Enemy. Oh, now this one from the EP. This was a particularly favorite of mine. Quite a night. There was, you're very welcome. There's, again, I'm going to sound like an MP3 track on repeat here, but it's definitely got the energy. There's that rawness there, featuring Jetser. This was one that definitely wanted to make me move, to start running around, falling over. One of my favorite activities, asking one of my friends to grab hold of me, swing me around at high speeds, then let me go. Yes, I'm an advert for normality. Anyone who's not into hack will be like, what? But it's... But this had all of those feels, man, and there was that gritty dirtiness in the track as well. I just thought, man, yeah, and that added to the heaviness. So, I'm very interested how you all put the music together for this one, and then how Jets are featured as well, because this is definitely one that really grabs the ears.
Yeah, this was the last one we wrote. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brad.
No, I was just going to say this is a product of Riffmaster Lad, who Leighton is, I think he wrote most of the riffs in this one, and sometimes you just got to let Leighton cook, because he comes up with some, you always got to let Leighton cook. He just makes some badass riffs, and he just pulled most of these ones out, and I think Tyler and Trauma pieced it together, and yeah, I definitely, personally, I don't think I had too much writing in this one, as far as I can remember. But
yeah, this one kind of was one that got tweaked a little more over time too. It was the last one we wrote for this EP. Another one where the ending changed a timer. I think just the one time we just added that little extra riff breakdown, whatever you want to call it, at the end, and it almost like we loved it, but it almost didn't feel complete until we added that.
Yeah.
And I'll call myself out here. When we first added that very end breakdown, I was definitely like unsure of it until I heard it played back like on a recording, like a video we took of us playing it. And I was like, yep, this is the one. Definitely just like, it's my favorite track on the EP for sure. I think a few of us would agree. Vocally or like lyrically and instrumentally.
Yeah. This one, like they said, was the last one we rewrote, but if I recall, we did this one like in 2 days. Like the song wrote itself like in that session. Like
wow.
We tweaked the ending a little bit, but we weren't playing this one live or anything. This one was one we just I don't know, we've had other projects. Like I said, we've known each other for a long time, but Brady and I have been in other bands, and we've had moments where we're in that space and there's a riff, there's a drum pattern, and all of a sudden we know by the end of the night that song is 75 to 90% done, like no question. And that's pretty much what happened here. We're like, heard that riff. This is one of those songs too where we kind of dance between that kind of metalcore, old school metalcore, kind of more modern hardcore kind of area punk, And this is one of those ones where I'm like, I really want to see if we can lean more into the hardcore elements, more of the riffs, the fasting. Like we can let the song speak for itself, and maybe again not over analyze it. Like I said, that we did it in one night. We didn't want to. I was like, I feel like this is good, like as is. Like this is sitting. And to speak on the ending with what Chama was saying, I remember. Like again, saying drums kind of carry more direction than I've ever thought they did. Like I didn't really realize that until writing this EP, that you can change a lot about what's going on and with that particular part. And I remember getting to the end of it, and it felt kind of weird at first, like playing. I'm like, oh, I don't know, like that's gonna be like unnatural, right? Like that doesn't feel right. And I'm like, just hear me out though. Like if we actually like play it in time, it's perfect and stuff. I think this will like sing, it'll translate perfectly. And I remember the only reason I had so much confidence in it, and it's so sad now to see, well, it's amazing now. It was sad with recent news, but with YOTK, Year of the Knife's recent situation with Maddie and all that, they had just put out an EP before that van accident called, I forget the name of it, but it has like Control C on it.
Control C.
And they have a lot of these parts that I mean, if you like hardcore, I feel like everyone likes Year of the Knife, but they have these parts on some of these new songs that you hear a lot like in death metal, where it's like super slam, hard transition into a new part, but it seemingly fits like peanut butter and jelly. It's like, bam, there, it's done. And I remember being like, none of the parts that they do, it just felt like inspired. I'm like, no, I think it feels unnatural in a way that it's good. Like we aren't used to doing something a little different. I'm like, it's like the bomb went off and it went off again in that ending breakdown. Like it's hit it up like twice. So I just remember this one being one where it was pretty quick. It was pretty to the point. Leighton and Brady were on the same exact page as far as guitar goes. He started with these riffs. Brady's like, I don't know if we need to add much. Brady's like, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
But that this song too has a lot of, there's a part like, Brady, you do vocals at some point in this song too.
Yeah. This is one I wanted to do backup vocals for this band for a little bit. And so I got to try doing that for the first time. And so I do the Cowards and then Concert Nights parts, responses that
it kind of slows down. We have a part in it where I wouldn't say like we all like elements of death metal, but it definitely slows down. It gets a bit more melodic. There's a lot of cymbals going off and toms and fills. And then Christian and Brady are kind of doing callbacks. And this is one of those ones where it just felt so easy to put in what we want to do. We're like, we need a part like that. Bam, it goes right there. We want to do this. Bam. The Jester thing, before I pass on to the other guys too, just as the final thoughts on it, was a kind of a last minute decision in the studio. We were like, I was just like, we should have a feature on one of these songs. Like, it'd be super fun. And I don't know why we haven't really talked about it yet. And it was just like all of us, like a light switch. We're like, well, what about Matt? Like, what about Jester? Like, I don't remember who said something about him. Like, why didn't we just ask him? Like,
I think it was
Chama had been in bands with him before. But yeah,
I think it was your idea.
Oh, I was like, I don't remember who like came up with it, but we were just sitting there talking about names, and then I was like, well, do you think Matt would ever be down? Like, I bet he would. And you never know. We've never really asked anyone to come in on it, but he was more than excited. I think he said it was one of his like more official features but more currently. And we think it translated really well. The lyrics he did there too, I think are both like, Christian sent him like a very rough template, but then he kind of we wanted him to put his own spin on it. And we listened to Jester. They're a lot faster, like a lot more of that upbeat. Maybe more punk, even leaning a little bit hardcore. And having him come in and juxtapose Christian's more heavier, boastful at like vocal quality. This one really comes in and just he starts spitting, and it's really fast. Good energy throughout the song. This is definitely probably my favorite too off the EP. If not Baptized. This is probably my favorite too.
I was in Matt. So Matt from Jester, Jester's a Florida band, but Matt is from North Dakota. He's from up where we're from. Him and I played in a band together for a long time. I don't even know how many years, but it was a long time. So he was just kind of like an obvious, like, well, he's our buddy. Kind of brings in a band from another scene to kind of, join forces from across the country, which is kind of a cool thing too. And I don't know, it just made sense. Shout out Matt.
Shout out Justin.
He did an awesome job.
Yeah, one of my best friends in the world. So I'm really glad that we were able to have him feature on that.
Absolutely.
I think this will be a popular. Well, actually, I'll ask you. Perfect excuse. I know you've done a couple of shows recently live. So, what's the reaction being like to this song? Because this is again definitely grabbed me. One of my favorites, or probably my favorite from the EP. So, I'm just wondered, what's the reaction been like when you played it live and people got nuts?
You want to go first, Chama?
Sure. We've only actually played this one, 2-3 times live now?
Okay.
I think so, yeah. Yep, we played it
haven't-
once before we had dropped EP, like as just like a feeler, you know, kind of like if you're paying attention, this is gonna be it's a new song, you know, whatever.
Right.
Anyway,
And
go ahead. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
It's definitely one that's, like you said, like gotten a good reaction, especially when that ending hits. It's kind of one of those, like Tyler said, how it feels like when we hit into that last breakdown, it like explodes again. And it's definitely one of those, especially before it was released, where you see the like, oh shit look on people's faces.
Yeah.
Like, because they think it's over, and then we hit that last part.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that intensity that you've mentioned quite a few times from like that live setting. We feel it in the song too. Like
and I mean, it translates well live too, because it's, you know, it starts out pretty like moshy, but then there's a 2-step part, there's a fast part.
Gotta have all that. Gotta have them.
Yeah. Kind of got like all the different elements that like people want to move to live, which is, you know, part of the goal.
And it's interesting you say that, Yusuf, because that's how I felt when I listened to it. It even has that bit of a beat down vibe, down tempo as well, heavy hardcore mixed in with, again, that bit of fastness when Jetster comes in, which even, and people might think, well, where's Gaz going with this? But you know, in some underground hip hop where you can get an MC who can spit really fast and that rawness, that's how it kind of was like adding that in with that heavy hardcore, then with that kind of metallic edge as well with the riffing. And it was one of those songs when I was listening to the EP, and you know, when and it's the same if it's a song that you hear live, when you just know that, man, this is a special one. This is something that certainly, I mean, the intro, as I said, grabbed me anyway to the EP, but this one especially, I thought this would be one I would love to run round to. It definitely it's got me pumped up. When I'm doing, you know, my training, this would be one that would really get me in the zone and just amp it up to another level. And thought, I could definitely train to this song for sure. So all of those elements, I feel, really come across. It's like, you know, when you've got a hardcore record or, you know, a death metal album, for example, and there's always those one or two songs where, I'm not saying that you don't enjoy the rest of the album, but there's always one or two ones will stand, that special one, you think, man, I remember that release because this is on it. Well, I feel Eternal Enemy, that is that song for this EP, definitely shines. So
thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, man. So I was wondering, when I was looking at the lyrics myself as well for this, there's a part where it says, "Don't let that slip. Don't let shit slip when your God is attached to the hip." And I wonder, is part of this a commentary on police brutality?
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Not that there's been no shortage of that, has there, sadly?
No. No, actually, it definitely. This is the whole song. This one's definitely kind of a call out again to. We have another song called "Deserve to Die" on the last EP, and this is mostly an echo of that. Not much has changed since we wrote that song to this song, and that's really unfortunate, and it's very sad. And we're here, you know, saying the same thing, just trying to. It's very frustrating. But yeah, that line is directly, you know, how a lot of these people in power abuse it. You know, especially with violence. It's just.
Yeah, this song is definitely maybe the most kind of black and white message. It's definitely just like middle finger to the cops. Like,
much, yeah.
Like doesn't get much clearer than that.
Yeah. It's happening here as well. Sadly, we had a recent famous case of. Luckily, thankfully, nothing happened to them, but it was two athletes, track and field athletes, that were wrongly arrested, and they really the cops just again stepping the mark, and you're just like. I'm not saying, all cops, because I think that's a sad thing, because, you get all the brutality, and now with, people argue with the media because sadly, you see it all the time. And I think for a person that's going into, the military or the cops, whatever, and it's someone who definitely is doing the job how it should be done. And I think, man, that just makes it so much harder for those good ones as well to get out there. Because
it's a double-edged sword. I mean,
yeah, it is.
It's an unwinnable problem.
I was gonna say we have to. I mean, contextually speaking, to can't relate to every part of the world. Like, I'm sure there are places where it's not as volatile as it is here in the United States, but it's definitely an issue here, and it's been an issue for a long time.
It really has.
One of the.
I mean, when did NWA write "Fuck the Police"? Like late '80s, early '90s. Like,
not much has changed.
No, exactly. Like,
it's only gotten worse, really, in a lot of ways. Over here,
It's just strange because like the type of there has to be some sort of societal security, but the type of person who wants to have a gun and yield power of another person is probably the last person who should have a gun and wield power over someone else. You know what I mean? So
there's a line in this too, to follow up what Brady's saying, and kind of what you're saying with the God part, that I think Matt actually changed this a little bit, which is cool. It fits so much better, the messaging, but it says unrelenting clutch, only gripping tighter over time, justifying public executions too far past all the warning signs. And it's just that kind of like, this is another, like, guys, how many times are we going to let this rinse and repeat here? And we're just going to, it's almost like in our neck of the woods, it's like these people live for it. Like there's nothing better than seeing someone get arrested. And it's like, you guys, wrongfully or beat up or whatever it is. It's just, we have a lot of the glorifying where, we're from the upper north part of the United States, and it's a little bit more rural. We're rural. I'm from a very small town. So like, I've been on the opposite side of a lot of that for a while now.
I think, as you were saying, it's like a gross abuse of power. There's something, those who abuse it, there's something severely broken within them where it's like, now I have to kind of do this and have that power over someone. And as you're saying, and it's not just when we get the reports, say, of something that's happened, and often not that this is good anyway, but as you were saying, it's like got worse when you hear someone has been shot that amount of times, or even you think any rational person just cannot get their head around that. I'm just like, what possesses somebody to do that to somebody else? I can't even put it into words. I feel one of the closing lines as well, the outer reaches of hell, the barren streets of our ruined nation, soaking up the blood with the threads of a dying flag. That is really powerful stuff. That encapsulates all of it, because that immediately brings that imagery of all those reports, all these cases of police brutality, sadly the person lying, or that we've seen on the news, or you've either seen yourself in real person or known somebody. And sadly we've had cases of it happening in France, here. I'm just thinking, as you were saying, Brady, we do need that sense of still a structure and balance, not total lawlessness, but you aren't expecting the people who are supposed to keep the peace, as they say, then to pretty much abuse it and break the peace. If those are the people you're going to look to, as they say, protect and serve, and this is happening, I'm like, well, where you going to look? So I feel it's a very powerful commentary on, sadly, on a problem that's been around a long time that seems to be getting worse. I don't know. maybe there's some expert who can come up with a way forward how we can get past this. I mean, the obvious one is being more stringent on who you let in have a gun and who's joining the police service. You know, there's got to be something psychologically wrong with some of these kind of people if that's what they're going to go and do. So the question is, well, why the hell would you let someone like that join? You know, something like that. So
I saw an interesting article or video or something like that was talking about a lot of it's also the recruitment process, you know, like how do police departments advertise to their communities to like invite which type of people. And there was like some police recruitment commercial in South Dakota that would just had videos of them just like being SWAT teams and busting in stuff, and then it was like serve your community, right? And they talked about the violence, police violence surrounding that area. And then they talked about a place in Australia where the commercial it's all more like, do you have what it takes to, and then shows people helping their community with like, you know, hanging with kids or like helping a dog or something like that.
More positive,
positive. And they actually, and they had more recruitment in that department from people who never thought they would be cops, you know, because so it's, like you said, you know, it's got to be more stringent about who you let in, but like, how do you even like with the image in America specifically of like how cops are now, like it's going to be further and further where the people who should be cops are the only people who are going to be cops. You know what I mean? And so, it sucks.
So do you think with that said, Brody, as you said, it could be like those people are becoming cops who shouldn't be cops, that it's turning the right kind of candidates off. They're like, man, I'm so tired of this, and I just want to distance myself completely away from that. I don't want the effects on my mental health from joining that. And then that's sad because, as you said, those are the kind of people that we need joining for the right reasons.
Exactly. And I like I said before, like we need to have some sort of system of security, but we just got to get totally different people in. It's a people problem, big time.
Another big, just to play off of that, another big part of the issue is that in the US, at least, they behave the way they do because they know they're untouchable. They know they're not going to get in trouble. They know they're above the law, which is like the opposite of how it should be. They should, you know, be held to stricter standards, if anything, but they know they can pretty much get away with anything. And that's another just part of the underlying problem.
And they do over and over again. It took an entire like state to riot to get one.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It took riots all over the world. Actually, it wasn't just there, you know, in Minneapolis, where we're very close to.
I mean, that's basically our scene, like Minneapolis, Fargo. It's, you know, our brother, sister scene, whatever you want to call it. So that hit close to home for sure.
And it took so much unrest and years of just, I feel like, people building up frustration in our country to, you know, now there is a definite divide. Like Brady said, like, I'm pretty sure if you're going to be a cop, like in today's 2023 in US, like I'm sure we have a different opinions. Let's just put it that way. Like different, we probably aren't going to be very good friends. Not that you're a bad person necessarily. I'm not saying that, but if you want to participate in that, I just find it interesting nowadays.
And it's sad because, as you were saying, the right kind of people are being turned off. Then the mistrust just increases for obvious reasons. It's kind of that, you know, that again, like I was saying earlier, with those who are corrupting faith for whatever agenda, it's like that cycle. And I mean, it's we'll move on to the next one.
Hey, I was gonna say, honestly, moving on to the next one. I
think we've exhausted that one for sure.
Well, I feel like this next one's actually kind of an echo of it, but I'll let you take it away. Like it kind of works. It's a good transition.
It is. Well, seduced by violence. Very powerful clause. Powerful title. Again, it's got more of that energy. But if you look at the opening lines as well, you know, blood for blood, an eye for an eye. Once you struggle, your turn to die. It's, you know, I got the sense, and as it goes on, it's like if you're going to do this, is what we've just been commenting on for so long, then I'm not promoting violence either. Before anybody, thinks that, I'm not in any case, because that's stupid. But there is going to be a pushback, and then there's that divide, and then it's like, as I was saying, trapped in the cycle. So I wondered if any of that came into the lyrics and writing, and then we can have a look at the music as well after that.
Yeah, I think this one too, like I said, the transition into it, this, even just the title, is kind of an echo of what we were discussing in our prior song, Eternal. I guess as far as the writing one for this one went, we wanted to kind of have it be explosive in the way it ends, like dramatic, but we also wanted, like you said, the blood for blood, like how long is it? Everyone, I feel like, can relate to this at some point. Like, how many more times until it's you? It actually does affect you, and then you're gonna care, right?
Yeah.
We deal a lot with, and the idea of, I mean, violence in America, we go all the way back to the 90s with it, video games and other things. It's always been corrupting the youth, and it's always been something. But in the title, Seduced by Violence, not only from a political cop, any sort of state kind of viewpoint, but even from America's viewpoint, I think we are quite desensitized at this day and age now. And that might be in other parts of the world too, but it feels like violence here is not an issue. It's not. They're like, oh, if I show it on TV, it's cool, man, it's fine. But the second there's a slip of nudity in something, it's like, children, tuck those kids away, send them to reform camps like they're crazy. It's like, I don't know where the divide. Like, you can be adults, we can all be mature about this stuff and this content. I'm all for it, whatever. But there's something to be said about the violence and like the eagerness here in the U.S. to get right to it nowadays. And I'm like, all right. I mean, all right. Like, if that's what this turns into. That's where the metaphor eye for an eye and blood for blood comes from, stuff like that.
Yeah, and sadly, it's not just a US issue either. I feel that now is being normalized so much, where you can get. I was chatting about, might have been yesterday's guest, I think it was, yeah. And we were saying, like with death metal, you've got the very much like all the gore and horror lyrics. Very
all that stuff awesome too, but contextually speaking, right?
Yeah, very, very violent. So people will often think, oh, yeah, I've got a problem with this. You're going to go out there and you're going to do this, that, and that. No. It's just theater. It's just theater. It's
an aesthetic.
And then, and yesterday's guest, and he was saying to me, it was either during the show or off air. He was saying, but yeah, when you've got some of these shows and even like regular soap operas, where there's people being really, really horrible, even more. Might not be in the sense of the gore, but kind of the intent and evilness behind it can be more so than a horror, because this is a person. It's not like a demon. It's not a monster. It's not a creature. It's something that you can visually see. Well, that thing is blatantly evil. That is a creature from wherever. This is like a regular person saying something horrible, and yet this has been normalized, and people are start watching this stuff and accepting it, and yet you can have the theme saying extreme metal and hardcore and that, and then people have an issue with that. And sadly, it's the way things are presented. It's like I'm probably going to upset a huge fan base here, but the Saw movies, and I like horror with a bit more. I like creature horror, obviously, and I like suspense with it. But there's only so many times when I can see, you got another gore fest of some crazy person doing this horrible. And I'm like, and people lap this stuff up, and I'm like, man. And then, as you rightly said, then they'll be like, oh, shoulder. Oh!
I was gonna say too, because like big horror fan as well, and the gore and everything has its place. Like I have no issues with some of the more extreme filmmaking or entertainment stuff, but that's the crazy thing is like we're seeing it so blatantly, like just in real life now. Those are a lot of that stuff contextually is for fun. It is for like your silly entertainment, whatever you want.
Escapism,
right? Escapism, right? And it feels like a lot of that escapism is now realism. Not in the terms of horror movies, but in the terms of just violence in general. It is, especially with guns and people in power over here. Just to add context to that, because like I get all like Saw, shout out Saw's cool, but I'm also not a huge fan of Saw either. I'm also not like diehard fan of Saw, either. And if people want to see those crazy gruesome kills, there's an art to it. Sure, go nuts.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
sick. I have no issue with that. But the people that are like just so eager to, you know, shoot back, like these people have fantasies in our country, you know, that they're in a mall and a school shooter shows up or something, and they're the guy that's going to be the hero that day. I'm like, why do you want to do that? Like, why do you want to relate to that situation? Why do you want
That's some Dan Bilzerian shit
it's
right there.
Really, it's really weird energy we get sometimes being from North Dakota. Like people here can be a lot, man, a lot.
Yeah.
And, like, I wish you were just some monster movie. That'd be sick. You're not though. You're real. You're a real person.
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough of them. I'm with you, man. That's it. And it's not that I have an outright problem with all of those movies. I can watch some of them. As you said, everything has its place. You know, I obviously do prefer my monsters, etc. And then sometimes I get bored. There was one of the early Saw movies, one of the early ones that has one of the cringiest but yet funny lines in movie history, where I think there's the guy towards the end of the movie and he kind of like takes it. It's almost as if, right, we've paid you for this 1 minute to deliver this line, and he like puts his all in it. He's like crawling along and he goes, "I'm afraid I think I need a doctor." it's so cringe and cheesy. It might be Saw 2 or the very first one. I know it's one of the early ones. And it was so horrendously bad, but yet comical. And I thought, they've either done this intentionally to put that comedic break in, you know, with all the gore or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, hell, with the gore, if you look at some of those Asian horrors as well, I mean, if you think it's bad in the US, they absolutely goes up another level.
Yeah, the extreme horror market is crazy. It's good. I mean, it's got its audience. And that stuff too, like, I think has its place. Like there's a niche for everything, but it does make you, you know, sometimes wonder where people's intent lie too sometimes.
I think the more danger with it, as we said, it's not. It's weird with that. We can see it's escapism. It's you know, it's an entertainment. We know it's not real. I think when it can be sometimes with some of the soap operas or the way things are marketed in that sense, with the more real world kind of geared stuff, which funny way I can put it, that's when I think there's more of a problem, because it's like encouraging those like really bad morals, bad way of treating people, etc., and then going out and thinking, oh yeah, look, I can do this or whatever. And now, you know, the whole trend we've had with people filming, bullying, beating people up, you know, in high school or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know, man. But turning just to the music for this then, Seduced by Violence, really nice close to the EP. So was this track always intended as the close, or was it going to be somewhere different originally?
I think we played with the line or the order a lot. I think the only thing we had for sure was that Baptized was going to be the intro. But I think this kind of has that super, like, we felt that like that ending breakdown with the kind of off timing might be helping me a little bit more intense to close the EP out.
It's got like the breakdown, like musically a good ending, but then it also has the, you know, the blood, like the drawn out where you expect to see like a pile up. It's that big, like, it just is an ending. Like, I couldn't personally see it anywhere else other than closing it out. So it just sounds big at the end.
Yeah, kind of finite a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Finite.
Yeah, definitely. It's got the feels, and I'm curious as well. Who did the cover for No Generation of Pain? Generation of Pain. Sorry.
Yeah, the album art. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Dominic Pabon. He's from a band called Simulacra and others, I believe. We actually got kind of through. I would say I was aware of he did art for bands and other stuff through the guitar player in his band, Kubrick. Goes by Xavier, I believe, or X. And we went through him for the first EP. And we found that Dominic was doing some stuff too, and the bands, like the stuff he was working on, seemed to really fit this vibe. But yeah, just shout out him. He killed it. He kind of had to do a little last minute too for us, so yeah, it was very cool. just kind of came together. We sent some themes, lyrics, stuff like that. But
yeah.
Dominic took on.
Yeah.
Crushed it.
Yeah, it's got all those themes that we've been discussing. I feel in the artwork very represented visually.
That's what
very
he said
nicely.
too. He's like, I'm gonna lean into this. Basically, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
He's a religious kind of like fire and brimstone kind of.
Oh yeah. It comes across like it's in if I hadn't heard your music and someone just like literally presented that cover to me, I would think, right, it's either Holy Terror hardcore band or this is possibly Brutal Death or a slam band as well. It's got those elements for sure. I know you formed in 2021, so relatively pretty new. And I know you've mentioned that you're all played in different bands, been good friends for a long time. So I'm just curious, how you all got together. I mean, this is obviously during COVID, and did you all want to? I don't know if you you've played any of the the other bands that you're playing are hardcore as well or death metal. So did you want to do something different with this one and say, right, we want to do a slightly different brand or maybe some different themes?
We were besides Trauma, we were all in a hardcore band, same members. We except for Lad played bass, and that was called Desire, and that was a pretty short-lived band. But Tyler and I have been in bands together since we were like 15. So yeah, we were going on like our fifth or sixth band together, and it's always just been I'm on guitar and he's on drums. Well, one time he played bass in High Hopes for a minute, yeah. But
rest in peace.
Yeah, now yeah, Tyler. But yeah, Tyler and I have been in bands forever. So when we both weren't in a band, we were just kind of like, we need to do this. It's just kind of it was kind of more of like a one thing, So, but after Desire kind of faded out, we decided we came back and we were like, where we all reached out to each other again. We're just like, let's start this up again and let's do it. Let's do it. Let's put some work and effort into it. Let's do it right, because we recognized all of the mistakes that we kind of made in Desire of just not taking it seriously as we could have been. And so we were just like, there's just kind of a missing piece, and then we need someone else. We need another. Well, we needed 2 guitar players for sure, and so Lad had to be on guitar. And then we were like, well, who would be the perfect bass player for the band? And Chama, we knew Chama wasn't in a band in the scene, and that kind of just worked out. So, yeah.
Yeah, my old band I played bass in, with the band I was in with the singer from Jester, had played countless shows with their old hardcore band and the pop punk band they had before that. So it was just kind of it just made sense. I had left my old band probably like a year or two prior, kind of started getting the itch to do something locally again. And it just kind of worked out timing wise, where I think I'd honestly just express interest on Twitter of, I would, like to play in a band again. And these guys hit me up. They're like, well, funny you say that, because I think we're going to start something up.
I remember, I remember starting the text message group chat, and I was like, all right, so we're a band now. And Sean was like, who is this? I don't have any of your numbers.
It's we were all familiar. I used to, would see these guys at shows and stuff, but we didn't hang out a bunch or anything. We were just friends through the scene. But that funny thing with that was that probably that conversation started right before COVID really hit. So we started the conversation, but then it was another few months before we actually started getting together. Once, I think it was probably February we started talking, and then it was June before we actually met up for the first time as all 5 of us and kind of started getting it going. So it was June 2020.
So it's nice how everything has come together at that right time.
Right.
I read that you're influenced by, fans of all of these bands, Harm's Way, Judah Asiri, Division of Mind, man, so many. And I'm just curious. I've actually been out the scenes for about 3 years on a hiatus, so I've only just recently kind of come back. So I just wondered. So forgive me if I'm a little bit out the loop here. Is this Hardcore Fest? Is that still active?
Yep.
East Coast.
Yep.
Man, that would be. I mean, that would be one for you guys to play for sure. That'd be awesome.
God.
Get on there.
If only.
Legendary, isn't it?
That would
Yeah.
that'd be like the end goal. I feel like if there was
Right.
ever a thing to do in hardcore, it'd be something to play like that, or FYA Fest, or
Sound and Fury, any of the big dogs. Yeah.
I feel like that's every hardcore band's like,
Yeah.
if there was one aspiration, it'd be like, that'd be cool, man. Someday.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I've always wanted to go. There's a band, now they're very well known now, the crossover band Foreseen from Finland. And
Yep.
I remember
That band rock.
before they got known, I used to play the demos. I used to put them on a couple of compilations I used to release as well, play them on the shows. And then I remember when they got on This Is Hardcore Fest, they played it, and then after that it seems just absolutely blew up. So I'm really pleased for them though. A fantastic band. So this is an open question to you all. What do you think lends? I just wondered if you guys feel this as well. What do you think is so great about hardcore music when it's infused with extreme metal that kind of lends itself so well? It really seems to create this really nice partnership.
I think maybe this is kind of relevant just in the COVID sense, but I think a lot of people, it seemed like just, I don't know, 5-10 years or so, at least in the heavier genres, we have seen crazy crossover support between genres, death metal, punk, hardcore, everything. I mean, if you're doing it right, in my opinion, and you're seeing all those have their place, but they can all play with each other. They can all be a part of the same show. We can we all share these same influences, and you don't have to be so elitist or like specific. I love death metal, but I don't want to play in a death metal band, right? I love punk, but I don't love all punk. Nothing wrong with that. And I think what I've noticed is like even at these like This Is Hardcores, these FYAs, LDB is a big one. I mean, death metal, and maybe we can just lump everything into like more extreme music. Harder punk, hardcore. This stuff has a different energy, a different vibe live, and I think they all translate very well together. And it's hard to not want to put some of those elements into our own songs too.
Right.
I think we are trying harder each time we pick up a new song to focus more on our hardcore tendencies and roots, but it is sometimes impossible not to just hear some of these death metal bands and some of the ways they write a song, or the way it comes together, or the way the crowd just reacts to just this awesome solo or something they're doing. It all influences everything nowadays, and I'm here for it. Like, absolutely love that.
Me too.
Like in our scene locally, we have two like actual acts right now that were local for a long time. We've known these dudes forever, but now they're signed. They're playing globally. They're everywhere. Phobophilic is one of them.
Awesome band.
Everyone loves them. They're amazing, and they'll play shows with brand new local starting bands. They'll play shows with people that have been around forever. They'll play deathmatch wrestling gigs, dude. Like everything. Everything. We played one of those with them, and it's just everything can translate here, and that's really fun. I don't know if it's that way everywhere, but it's seemingly so becoming more the norm.
I think that's one of the positives. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't go through the elitist phase getting into extreme music, and then thankfully got out of that. But it's led to more of a crossover, because I'm hearing now there's so many bands who are taking elements of hardcore using that, and I know that, yes, there's been bands around a long time who've done that, like Nine Fetus, for example. Grind band, like Breakdowns are so nasty as well, and they do a lot of hardcore shows. And I like that though, that there's this mix in that it can be now. It's just different forms of extreme heavy music. It's people coming together from all over the world as well, from whatever scene. I'm like, man, none of that matters. It's about the music, as we were saying. As you were saying, not to impress anybody, but like some of the problems with polytricks and things we've been talking about. If that could only translate as a wider whole, and people would learn that, like, hey, we're all, we're all one, we're all the same, and it's about coming together with those shared interests. And we're not always going to like the same thing or agree, but none of that matters, man. So I think that is the beauty that's coming across in that music. I've noticed as well, you've had pop up in recent years a lot of the Swedish death metal influence hardcore as well, where they're taking that riffs from like all of those HM2 bands from Sweden and then putting that on with hardcore.
Shout out HM2, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's us. Yeah. Entombed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like all the HM bands. It's just funny, not to interrupt you, but listening
That's
back,
all right.
Growing up, it was very like sectioned out for me. And as I've gotten older, it's like all those bands from 90s, from the 80s, we just didn't call it that back then. We didn't know that was what would become like the modern day breakdown or the modern day dive bomb, or like, Bolt Thrower is like one of the, if you're a hardcore kid, you love Bolt Thrower. That wasn't probably always the case. They were a death metal band specifically for so long. Like, I don't know, man, some of this stuff fits right in. It's super, it's just fun. I really like the where music is currently. It seems like everyone's there for one thing, and that's the like energy. Like everyone's there for the show, man. We're here for the music. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, it used to be a lot more sectioned off, like you said, like
Definitely.
There was the youth crew scene and the death metal scene, whatever. But like, say we went to FYA Fest in Florida last year, and Fiddle had 200 Stab Wounds and the Chisel all played on the same fest. And it was awesome. Sangwi Sugabog just opened up for Citizen recently.
Which is crazy, and I love seeing that energy. No, I love seeing that energy.
I know. It's cool. I love the way that genres just kind of don't give a fuck anymore.
That's how it should. Sorry, I cut you off there, man.
No, I was done.
No. I know I can talk for the world, believe me, and I get hyper and stoked so easily.
Me too.
That's a positive that's come out of all of this, though, that we've got the genre blending, the cross genre shows again, because I can remember when it was sectioned, or people be even like, if you like hardcore, you're kind of not welcome to death metal scene.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Even online or even like amongst people, like it's like, I think if you like this hardcore band, you are definitely gonna love this death metal band. You like that punk band, you're probably gonna love most of hardcore then. Like it's awesome how it translates now. But sorry, go ahead.
No, it's hard. But the funny thing is, when I talk to people like yourselves and bands from whatever era they're from, and people forget this, they can be in punk bands as well, hardcore bands, thrash bands. It's like, hey, we've been doing this a long time. There's been, it seems there's been that mentality at times when I don't know what it is. If it's I don't know, some expert will probably be able to. He's done a study on this. I don't know. can answer this, but it's almost as if there was like these scene rules where hardcore can't mix with this, we can't mix with that, or whatever. And now it's just maybe that's one of the positive things that's come from COVID. It's like, no, hell, I'm not going to do that anymore. Everyone is going to be together. I used to get so much heat, man, from people and find out I'm a big underground hip hop head. One of my best buds who lives in San Diego now, who's an underground hip hop artist, and he was from Boston, and he used to go on the battle rap scene and everything. He was a pretty good MC, and I used to get even from metalheads, and hip hop as well. Not so much from hardcore and punk, because there's always been that bit of a crossover with it there.
Yeah.
Especially especially the new hardcore scene, But that was something I used to get from metal, and I get where they're going with the point, because if you look at the mainstream with kind of trap and then mumble rap, etc., it doesn't exactly get a good image. But I used to always say, no, go at the underground scene, look at the underground scene, do some of that stuff is as raw and heavy in a different way to our music. And most of the reaction, people had listened to it and it'd be like, man, this sounds different. This is real. I say, because there's some real lyricism there. It's actually not all about the coochie cutter stuff or any of that wackiness. So that's definitely a positive, and I'm hoping that continues. And again, as I was just saying earlier, one of the tenets for relaunching this show, naming it Fed Up, was to open it to everything, to all kinds of music. There's actually like an indie pop band who are due on soon. I think from Brooklyn. I know really nothing about that music, completely outside my comfort zone, not into that, whatever. But I'm like, I still talk to them. Let's get into doing a deep dive. It'd be interesting. So this is a definite positive. I just wondered as well, do you feel then Generation of Pain, do you feel it's a continuation of your sound that you've done with the previous releases, or do you feel it's changed up a little? And the second part of this loaded question, have you started working on new material, and you maybe plan to do something a bit different, or just literally see what happens when you get together?
I'll go.
I mean,
Go ahead.
oh yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I definitely think that we try, like Tyler said, like we tried to be a little bit more intentional with each part in this one. Even going into recording, I think we, like Chama, Lad, and I all sat down and ensured that we were all playing our parts perfectly with each other. And just, so we just kind of tried to improve on that. We took away some of the elements in the first one that we were like, we've tried it, we liked it at the time, maybe not sticking with me 100% now. But I think we definitely wanted to grow and improve as musicians, and also improve in our songwriting skills. So and then to answer the second part, we do have some songs or some new riffs and material, but I don't know, we haven't had a chance yet to really start focusing on this, since just kind of winding down from a lot of big shows that or not big shows, I guess, or bigger shows for us that we've had lately. So
yeah.
Go on.
Sorry. I'll just go next real quick.
You go.
I think this is mostly just a 2.0. This was we only did 4 songs. We didn't want to do any filler stuff. We were like, let's just put out what we can at the best of our ability right now. I think we wanted to lean more into our hardcore influences on this record, and I think we will continue to do so. But it's always going to have that little bit of that metallic edge. There's going to be something to it that makes it maybe not quite 100% pure hardcore, and that's just in our nature. We like so much stuff. And I think going forward, I think we're just going to have a much easier time kind of putting it together. I've said it to these guys. I mean, Brady and I've been in multiple bands, but it always seems like whatever release is the follow-up, the secondary thing you're putting out, seems to, for me, to be the most uncertain, the hardest. Like, what is it going to be? Like, what are we trying to do after that? Like, is it like, where does this go from here? Like, what do we want to achieve or set for ourselves? And COS to Generation of Pain definitely felt like just a more of the direction you'd expect from us, but maybe just a nice step up. We really focused on certain elements that we maybe didn't focus so much harder on the first EP, especially like stuff like transition, songwriting. We mentioned it too, like giving each other like moments to shine throughout the EP. We really wanted to give everyone a shot there and have influence on that stuff. So I think all of that, what we learned with this EP and the last one, will make whatever we do next very fun. I'm looking very much forward. We just haven't had a ton of time to sit down and do it. Our year is winding down, I think, pretty nicely here. The end of the summer got pretty busy, and we had some shows here. So hopefully going to hit it hard, probably even starting next week with writing stuff. But like finishing it. But we do have some riffs going. We have some ideas started. I think more than anything, though, it feels like we're all kind of on the same page, and that's cool. Like going into this next, like we're all pretty certain what we're going to, like what the mentality is, like what we're about here. So that's where it feels like for me right now, currently.
Yeah. You guys kind of said it all. You kind of summed it up perfectly. Yeah.
I wanted to give you the opportunity there because I know I was going to jump in with something. So
no, that covers it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely that's really good to hear. I know you did a recent show with a trio as well. I've never caught them live actually, and I've played in my region a lot, and I've never actually got to see them. But again, as I was saying earlier, the bucket list of bands to see, man, it's just
never ending,
never ending all the time. When you mentioned Bolt Throw as well, Tyler, I immediately honed in on that. I thought, because they seem to be one of those bands who everyone in hardcore loves, everyone in death metal loves. The punks love them because of the crust punk element in there. And then the whole kind of their early material with Warhammer 40,000 and then where it goes, that all fits. And what's the band? Was it the band they do now? Memoriam, isn't it? I think. Where that's got Carlin from Bolt Thrower.
I don't know if I'm as familiar with Memoriam.
Yeah. That they're not too bad either. They used to. Oh, there used to be a band called Sanctum from the West Coast, no longer active, and they were a metallic cross punk band. And
That
they,
sounds really familiar, actually. Sanctum. That sounds
oh man, they were like a mix of like that bolt thrower death metal sound with bits of the punk, the crust, and hardcore, and not the fastest band, but some seriously really really heavy riffs, some breakdown parts, total windmilling moments as well. Stupidly heavy.
I
band.
feel like I've definitely listened to this band before. Now that I'm
Yeah.
looking at their art here, but yeah, very sick.
Yeah, yeah.
You're saying they would relate kind of in that same way,
Yeah,
genre. Yeah.
That's what I think's cool, as you were saying, from a lot of those bands then, who they've kind of like been the foundations for all this stuff that we like and where we are now. And you're thinking at the time they would probably just say, "Hey, we just played music that we love from all of these different areas," which is a good thing. So I just wondered as well, do you have any upcoming shows that you would like to shout out for people where they can go and see you play?
Actually, not at the very moment. We have
No.
stuff in the works.
We just confirmed one in Minneapolis, but it's not announced yet. So
Right.
yeah, we have some stuff lining up, but nothing nothing official at this current time to announce. We did just play a couple shows, but yeah, nothing immediate.
That is
It means we
intentional
can
too.
write finally. Yeah, it's a little intense. Yeah, we want to write some music too. So
yeah, after we put out the EP, we did a release weekend. So I just want to shout out the band Spec from Fargo and Out for Blood from Minneapolis. Did some fun weekend shows with them to celebrate the EP being out. And that's like what Tyler said, what we're kind of winding down from. But
yeah,
man.
I've got a nerd up on this as well. You mentioned you did a deathmatch wrestling show, and then there was another band. You said, "I'm a huge pro wrestling fan," so as soon as I heard that, I was like, mentally file that and come back to it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, just my real brief experience. I'm not like, I've never had anything against it. I'm just not as versed in the world of wrestling or professional, WWF deathmatch stuff, but have always had like, it's always been there, especially being a 90s kid, like in its
Yeah.
peak. Like
Yeah.
I definitely understand it. And the death metal or deathmatch scene around these parts, I don't know if that's really that popular everywhere else, which makes it really cool that we have a promoter here who's, funny enough, was in tons of hardcore bands and has been in a music scene forever. And he finally was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I really want to do. And he's a promoter for deathmatch wrestling shows, and he loves having a intermission, like a halftime show, and it's usually one or two bands, usually just one. They'll play 20, 30 minutes and then give the wrestlers some time, and they'll clean up the stage or whatever they've broke, and there's blood and fluorescent light bulbs everywhere and tables broken in half. But then the band gets up there, and it's he always puts on like super dope hardcore death metal acts, always stuff like Maul, Philip, Karma. He had us fill in and hop in on that one with Phobo, and that was one of the coolest shows I think I've ever
honestly, yeah.
That's another thing where it's like the crowd at those shows probably likes the music, but they're there for the wrestling.
Yeah, they're insane.
So we're just there to give you some like background music to drink to. We're just playing to a crowd like that was super fun because they're not necessarily
was awesome.
waiting for your next song. They're just here for the entertainment. Like, this is the whole thing. I bought a ticket for. This is awesome. And yeah, shout out Eric Morrison. He does a lot of good work. And you can look him up. Time Bomb Pro. Yep, Time Bomb Pro. And it's a pretty big deal. He gets people in from out of the country to fly over. I think he's had people all over the world come and wrestle in our small little town community.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's all him, man. He's a powerhouse with that stuff. It's cool. It's very cool.
I'll hit him up, Tyler. He would be really, really cool to talk to.
I think you would absolutely love Time Bomb Pro on here. Tell him we sent you.
Have you seen they're in have you seen any of those GCW shows that do a lot of that deathmatch wrestling with Nick Gage, and as I said, they're hitting each other with the light strobes and everything. It looks so insane, and I know people will be thinking, "Oh, you were all saying against violence and all of this." we're on about, you've got to look at the context, folks, and the structure. This is like, it's like over the top kind of graphic novel kind of.
It's still like theatrical as all hell.
Yeah.
You know, it's still very much on the nose. But then these guys, they're not really faking the stunt. You know, they're bleeding everywhere, and it's like, hey man, if you know, contextually speaking, it's dope. Like that's what they're into. It's fun. It's a way of expression. They all have characters, you know, and they like lean into these roles.
The lore.
It's fun stuff, man. It's very cool to have it around here.
It's such a giggle as well, and the commentators get so hyped up and crazy on that stuff as well, which is entertaining itself. You've got like the event happening, and the commentary is almost like another scene.
Garrett does a lot for him too, and we've mentioned them all a couple times. That's another local death metal act, but they're blowing up like crazy, and they're starting to do nationwide tours and support. And he was a wrestler at one time too. This kind of like amateur pro / backyard wrestling kind of thing. And now he does like a lot of the announcing and being a death metal vocalist.
Yeah.
The two pair so well together. He has such an energy. He's so fun. Shout out Garrett forever. But
there's so many people who are you know, in wrestling who are into hardcore and metal, and again, it just seems to go that the energy of the fans as well, the chant, the humor, the entertainment.
You get it, right? Like you either get it or you don't.
It's
kind of, I feel like that kind of makes sense even for both. I know these are two different complete things, but in the live setting, like what they're about, like you either get this or you don't really get this.
It reminds me of that conversation I've had sometimes with friends who are not into metal or hardcore at all. You know, they're kind of like, I guess, regular pop music. And they'll often say, said this before, is, I can't understand the lyrics, I can't understand the words or whatever, that's too heavy or whatever. And I always say, yeah, and sadly, I wish I couldn't understand the lyrics. Shut up and listen. It's about the music. And then, you know, as you said, some people either get it or not. It's always fun. And we were only chatting like this yesterday with Mason. We were saying, like, with non-metal friends, etc., like when they hear, you know, the heavier bands, the faces just go into like absolute shock and horror. But it's always interesting if you can get one of those friends into the music, that one you can convert into, and like, oh no, I get this now, I like it. That's always a good thing as well. So stay open, y'all. It's good stuff. I know I've kept you on here for quite a while, and before I, you know, let you guys go, I just wondered if you've got any new merch plans, because I was looking at your merch, man. You've got everything there from t-shirts, shorts, a lot of stuff I could actually train in as well. I just wondered, you know, you've got the beanies, you've got a nice hoodie there. I just wondered if you've got anything else that you're working
actually on? Yeah, we're working on some physical releases finally, for both EPs. Actually, we just want we get asked more often than I thought we would. And I think when I first started, we didn't want a ton of overhead and stuff, but I think it would be good to have a couple physical formats, whether that's CDs and cassettes. I mean, we'd love vinyl support, or even vinyl, but that's down the road. I figured it's at the point now, like we've got asked enough about it, and we're like, let's just do it. Let's put some physical stuff out there. Kind of like the idea of that is it's something we've wanted to do anyway. It's just getting around to it. So we're finally like really focusing on that here in the next, probably this month, CDs and tapes, as well as probably a pre-order with those. We'll do some sort of like, we wanted to do hats with our last merch run, and it was one of those things we couldn't really budget for at the time. So this would be an opportunity to do something like that, but not a ton. There'll be a pre-order, but not a ton like solidified yet.
I will also say it is super nice having Tyler in the band, who is a designer. Like, he designs merch for a living, and so like having him in the band is
that's super handy.
I pretty much do all of our stuff. Like I would like to pay for some art and get some of that stuff going too down the road, but it's one of those kind of DIY mentalities. Like, if the guys like what I'm doing and people seem to be digging it, then why fix what's broken? So I do a lot of heavy lifting there. Try to outsource stuff that I feel like people might have a better grasp on, like the album art, for example. That's one of those things I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. I want to see what people interpret. You know?
Well, and our new logo too, even like Tyler did our first logo, and then
nice.
And then we had our we had a designer do the next one. So
yep. And I just want to see someone else's take on this. It's
Yeah.
fun to challenge myself as an artist, but I don't want to do everything. Surely, and my vision's only one vision. Someone might, even like you here today, might have a different interpretation on something, and that's just as valuable to me. So, yeah.
I am having to behave myself now, learning this fact, because man, I could set up another show literally talking about your merchandise designs and art and everything. I've got to ask you a nerdy question quickly with that being said. And I've always wondered, and hopefully some people will start doing this. But would you ever be interested in doing artwork for MMA rash guards, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rash guards, and wrestling tights? Because there's a company called Tatami, and they carry some classic metal band designs, Iron Maiden and stuff. But I've always wanted somebody to do some hardcore or death metal rash guards, shorts, spats that I could wear.
What's crazy is I don't see a lot of that, but Momentum did do that recently. They have, I don't know if you saw that, Shama, but they had like the actual like MMA shorts with the.
Oh man.
They may even did gloves. I think they sold the shorts for sure. The MMA shorts, they sold them for a little while. Probably hard to find now, but they did exist. And I think, not sure if everyone here is familiar, but Gold Set Merch, I think he was active in a band called Trail of Lies for a long time.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
And he does stuff even for like Krayshawn and all these like rappers and crazy celebrities. Like he's well beyond just like what hardcore stuff he was doing, but he still hooks up all these bands. And seemingly that guy has it all figured out as far as like embroidered stuff on all over the garments, and seemingly impossible garments to get embroidered on in the first place. Like MMA shorts aren't probably a very feasible thing for a lot of bands, but seemingly we're getting to a point where with merch, I know the Momentum dude does a lot of their stuff too. I know other bands like Sense to Die from the area, he's an artist too. And I think a lot of people are more accepting of like, hey, if you can figure it out, we're going to support it. We're going to do it. And nowadays there's just so many options. So I'm sure you'll see more of that. I was just funny. You mentioned specifically like training gear and MMA stuff. And I was like, actually, a band did do that not too long ago, but you don't see enough of it really.
You don't. That's what's always been my kind of nerd gripe, if you like. I've been looking, and I always like to look for different designs. And there's a guy, I don't know if he's originally from London. He's either Japanese, I think he's Japanese British, or he might be, I think he's called Miyakatsu or something, Miyakatsu.
Okay.
Some of his graphic design, man, with all like the samurais, Asian stuff, is so sick. It is insane. But I've only ever seen like bands such as carrying designs, Iron Maiden, Slayer, and nothing. And I thought I always wanted something, hardcore or death metal, something different,
something a little heavier than Metallica, or something just not as common as.
Exactly. So
diversity here, a lot more modern.
Yeah, exactly, man. So whenever I saw the vast range of Merc as well, and then learn that fact, I thought, right, before I let you go, I thought I've got to ask that.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome question. And like Brady said, it's kind of my job too. Like, I'm a freelance artist, but I do work for a production company here in town. So it does help us find unique items, or I'm just really good at sourcing things. And that's a skill set I think, like I said, if the band is cool with it and everyone's happy with how things are going, then why break that up? Because it's a very very fortunate position to find ourselves in specifically.
Seriously, Tyler, learning this as well. I'm having to behave myself so much because I'm such a huge movie head. And Ross AKVX, who used to be underground hip hop MC, he has his own channel as well, and he retired from hip hop and he's moving more into indie film now.
Okay,
and just learning this. If he's here now, we'd be like, dude, gotta get him on the show. Just talk about. Man, that's fantastic, dude. I'm hoping to line up some indie film guests coming on soon as well. So yeah, I know I've talked your heads off. So I always do this with guests. I always like to give them a chance to shout out anything at all, anybody, obviously the bands or anything I may have forgot. So is there anything or anybody all of you would like to shout out?
Chama, go first.
Just like, I don't know, anyone that really had a hand in our EP for sure. Like Dom with the artwork. Our great friend Jake Watson, he did the tracking, mixing, mastering, everything on both of our EPs. So big shout out to him, and then shout out to his bands, Out for Blood and Rocked as well from Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I like that. Shout out Andrew Sherman and Hostile Harmony, because he owns our practice space and lets us practice.
Yeah.
I was going to say real quick, shout out to everyone they've mentioned, anyone that had a hand on the EP, Matt to Jake to Dominic to any of those dudes. Shout out the 701 as a whole, the 612 Minneapolis. Those are our brothers too. Yeah, and shout out Hardcore in general. Thank you for having us. This was super fun.
Yes.
We don't get to do this very often, so I'm glad the EP resonated with you, if even a little bit, and it means a lot that you'd want to sit and pick our brains for a little bit, man. Really appreciate it.
You're all very welcome. You're welcome on this show anytime. All of you, the members who can be here today. I'll help you with whatever I can. I thoroughly enjoyed doing the deep dives. All our conversations, both serious and non-serious, it's been super fascinating and interesting. And I've been in my element. I know this is open to all kinds of music, but when I heard something that was definitely hardcore oriented, I was like, I'm gonna get a piece, baby.
I'm glad we could help out there, man. Yeah, no, it's exciting for both of us.
Yeah, definitely. So, folks, it's awkward pause time where I hit end stream, where people are going to be thinking, what's wrong with this guy? So all the links to No Divinity will be in the description. Please go and support them, check them out. If you're a lover of extreme and heavy music in general, whether that's hardcore, death metal, thrash, sludge, any of that good stuff, definitely check them out. You will not be disappointed, and go and see and support these bands as well, especially after COVID. Let's keep building the scenes, and let's keep the genre blended and crossing going. Let's get that positivity back out there, and to say that, hey, it's okay, we can take elements of other music and like other music as well. One scene all together. So, folks, again, thanks for coming on, y'all. Really appreciate it, and much love to you all. Now I'm going to hit end stream, so we're all going to kind of look like we're temporarily possessed, but don't worry about it, folks. So,
peace out, man. See you later.
3, 2, 1. I'll hit end stream.